The planet was beautiful from space. Green forests covered the northern lands. Blue oceans sparkled under twin suns. White clouds moved slowly across the sky. The humans who lived there called it New Eden, and they loved it like a mother loves her child. 2,300,000 people called this world their home. They had built cities with tall buildings and small towns with quiet streets. Children went to school in the mornings. Farmers worked their fields in the afternoons. Families ate dinner together in the evenings. It was a simple life, a good life, a peaceful life. Commander stood at her station in the orbital defense platform. She was 43 years old with gray in her hair and calm in her eyes. She had served in the Terran Defense Force for 20 years, but she had never fired a weapon in anger. New Eden was far from trouble. It was a farming world, not a military target. Her job was easy. Watch the sensors, file reports, drink coffee, go home to her husband and 2 daughters. She was thinking about her youngest daughter's birthday party next week when the alarm started screaming. Red lights flashed across every screen. Her coffee cup fell from her hand and shattered on the floor. She stared at the sensor display and felt her blood turn to ice. 200 ships had appeared at the edge of the system. They were big, they were fast, and they were heading straight for New Eden. "Get me identification," she ordered. Her voice was steady even though her hands were shaking. "Commander," her sensor officer said. His face was white with fear. "They're Dominion warships, all of them." They had heard of them. Everyone had. They were an alliance of 7 alien species who had ruled this part of the galaxy for 10,000 years. They were powerful, they were proud, and they hated humans. Humans had only been traveling between stars for 300 years. In that time, they had built 43 colonies across the Orion Arm. They called them vermin. They called them pests. They said humans bred too fast and spread too far. They demanded that humanity stop expanding. The diplomats talked. The politicians argued. But nobody expected this. "Open a channel," commanded. "All frequencies, ask them what they want." The communication officer tried. He tried again and again. "No response, Commander. They're not talking to us." The ships came closer, counted them on her screen. 200 warships against her single defense platform and 12 patrol boats. It wasn't a fight. It was an execution. "Send a message to Earth," she said. "Priority 1, tell them what's happening, tell them everything." She activated the station's recording systems. Every camera, every sensor, every data stream. If she was going to die today, she would make sure the galaxy knew what happened here. The fleet reached orbit. They did not slow down. They did not send warnings. They did not ask for surrender. They simply opened fire. Plasma rained from the sky like the anger of gods. The first city to die was called Hope Landing. 50,000 people lived there. The bombardment lasted 4 minutes. When it stopped, there was nothing left but a crater filled with melted glass and ash. Watched on her screens as her world burned. She saw the schools explode. She saw the hospitals collapse. She saw the farms become fields of fire. She saw everything she loved turn to smoke and dust. Her patrol boats tried to fight. They were brave. They were so brave. But they were small ships with small guns against monsters from the deep black. One by one, they died. Their crews died with them. Good men and women who never had a chance. "Commander," someone said, "they're targeting residential areas. They're not hitting military targets. They're killing civilians on purpose." Said nothing. What could she say? This wasn't war. This was murder. The bombardment continued for 6 hours. 6 hours of fire from the sky. 6 hours of death. 6 hours of screaming that nobody could hear in the vacuum of space. When it was over, New Eden was gone. The green forests were black. The blue oceans were boiling. The white clouds were gray with ash. 2,300,000 human beings had become dust in the wind. Station was damaged but still functioning. She knew she would die soon. They were coming for her now, but she had one last job to do. She loaded all the recordings into a message beacon. Every second of footage, every death, every crime. She wrote a simple message to go with it. This is Commander of the Terran Defense Force. The Dominion has destroyed the colony of New Eden without warning or cause. 2.3 million civilians are dead. Men, women, children, all dead. I am sending this record so that humanity will know what happened here, so that humanity will remember. Do not let them get away with this. Do not let our deaths mean nothing. Remember us, remember New Eden, and make them pay. She launched the beacon toward Earth. It disappeared into the darkness of space, carrying its terrible cargo of truth. Minutes later, they finished their work. Station exploded in a ball of fire. She died at her post like the soldier she was. The leader of the fleet was called High Commander. He looked at the burning world below and felt satisfied. The vermin had been taught a lesson. Other human colonies would hear of this and tremble. They would learn their place. They would stop spreading. They would bow down to their betters. He opened a broadcast on all frequencies. His message went out across the galaxy. Let this be a warning to the human infestation. You are not welcome in this galaxy. You are not wanted. You are nothing but pests to be crushed. Look upon this world and know your future. Expand no further. Dream no bigger or share their fate. This is the will of the Dominion. This is the law of the galaxy. Obey or die. The fleet turned and left. Behind them, New Eden continued to burn. In the cold darkness of space, a small beacon traveled toward Earth. It carried the screams of the dead. It carried the truth of what happened. It carried a message that would change the galaxy forever. The thought they had taught humanity fear. They were wrong. They had taught humanity fury. The beacon arrived at Earth 3 weeks after the massacre. It was found by a patrol ship near the edge of the solar system. The captain who opened the first files vomited on his own bridge. He had never seen anything so terrible in his life. Within hours, the beacon reached Earth. Within days, the entire human race had seen what it contained. The United Terran Council met in their great chamber in Geneva. 500 representatives from every human colony sat in their seats. The room was silent. The air was heavy with grief and rage. On the massive screen at the front of the room, the recordings played. They showed the ships arriving. They showed the plasma falling from the sky. They showed the cities burning. They showed the people dying. 2,300,000 voices, silenced forever. Commander appeared on the screen. Her face was calm even though death was coming for her. Her words filled the chamber. Remember us, remember New Eden, and make them pay. The screen went dark. High Admiral sat in the front row. He was 72 years old. His hair was white. His back was straight. His eyes were empty. His daughter Sarah had lived on New Eden. His granddaughter Maya had just started school there. His grandson James had learned to walk there. They were all gone now, dust in the wind, ashes in the air. He had not cried. He had not spoken. He had not moved. He just sat there staring at the screen with something cold and terrible growing in his heart. The representative from the Galactic Concord stood up to speak. He was an alien called Ambassador, a tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms. The Concord was supposed to keep peace between species. They had done nothing to stop the massacre. I understand your grief, Ambassador said. What happened on New Eden was a tragedy, but the Dominion is powerful. They have ruled this region for thousands of years. War with them would be suicide. The Concord advises negotiation. We can seek reparations. We can demand apologies. We can. Apologies. A voice cut through the chamber like a knife. Fleet Admiral stood up from her seat. She was small in body but large in spirit. Her black hair was pulled back tight. Her dark eyes burned with fire. She had led the Terran Navy for 15 years. She had hoped to retire without ever fighting a real war. That hope had died with New Eden. They killed 2,300,000 people, she said. Her voice was quiet, but everyone heard it. They killed children in their schools. They killed patients in their hospitals. They killed families in their homes. And you want us to ask for an apology?" Ambassador shifted nervously. "The Dominion has 12,000 warships. Your species has perhaps 6,000. The math is clear. You cannot win this fight." Admiral smiled. It was not a nice smile. "We have more ships than you think," she said, "and we fight harder than you know." She walked to the center of the chamber and faced all 500 representatives. They did not attack a military base. They did not attack a weapons factory. They attacked farmers and teachers and children. They burned them alive and broadcasted across the galaxy. They called us vermin. They told us to know our place. They want us to be afraid. She paused. The chamber was completely silent. "I am not afraid," she continued. "I am angry. I am so angry that I cannot sleep. I am so angry that I cannot eat. I am so angry that all I can think about is making them pay for what they did. And I know I am not alone. Every human in every colony is feeling what I am feeling right now. We are one people. When you hurt one of us, you hurt all of us. And when you kill our children, you wake up something inside us that we try very hard to keep asleep." She turned to face the screen where his final message still glowed. "Commander asked us to remember. I remember. She asked us to make them pay. I will make them pay. I will take our fleet to the heart of the Dominion, and I will show them what humans do to child killers." High Admiral stood up. His voice was rough with grief but strong with purpose. "I move that we activate the Omega contingency. Total military mobilization. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon, everything we have." A murmur ran through the chamber. The Omega contingency had never been activated before. It was designed for one thing only, a war for survival. "This is madness," Ambassador protested. "You will be destroyed. The Dominion will wipe out your entire species." Admiral turned to look at the alien. His eyes were cold and hard. "My daughter is dead. My are dead. 2 million of my people are dead. There are things worse than destruction, Ambassador. There is living with cowardice. There is living with shame. There is living knowing that you did nothing while your children burned." He looked around the chamber at his fellow humans. "I would rather die fighting than live on my knees, and I believe my people feel the same way." The vote was called. 500 representatives from 43 colonies raised their hands. The vote was unanimous. The Omega contingency was activated. Across human space, the call went out. It traveled at the speed of light through quantum communication networks. It reached every colony, every station, every ship. Remember New Eden, all hands to battle stations. The response was immediate. Retired veterans reported for duty. Factory workers switched to making weapons. Civilians volunteered by the millions. The anger that had been growing since the news arrived finally had somewhere to go. On Earth, Admiral began her work. She opened sealed files that only a handful of people knew existed. She activated shipyards that did not appear on any map. She called forth fleets that had been hidden in the darkness between stars. The galaxy thought humanity had 6,000 warships. The galaxy was wrong. For 300 years, humans had been preparing for this day. They had hoped it would never come. They had prayed it would never come. But they had prepared anyway because that is what humans do. They plan for the worst while hopping for the best. Ambassador sent a message to the Galactic Concord. The humans are mobilizing. They are going to war. They are going to lose, but they are going anyway. The Concord watched and waited. Other species watched and waited. Everyone expected humanity to fail. But deep in the asteroid belts of Sol, in the hidden places where no alien had ever been allowed, something was waking up. Ships were coming out of their long sleep. Engines were roaring to life. Weapons were being loaded. The vermin were getting ready to bite back. And when they were done, the galaxy would never call them vermin again. 6 months passed since the burning of New Eden. 6 months of grief. 6 months of rage. 6 months of preparation. The Dominion watched humanity with amusement. Their spies reported increased military activity. Their sensors detected ships moving through human space, but the Dominion was not worried. Humans were young. Humans were weak. Humans would make noise for a while and then accept their place in the galaxy. High X sat in his command center on Prime, the capital world of the Dominion. He was ancient by any standard, having lived for 3,000 years. He had fought in 100 wars. He had crushed a dozen species. He had never lost. "The vermin are building ships," his intelligence officer reported. "Our estimates suggest they may have assembled 8,000 vessels." X made a sound of contempt. "Let them build. Let them come. We have 12,000 ships and 10,000 years of military tradition. These short-lived creatures know nothing of real war." He dismissed the report and went back to his plans. The Dominion would wait for the humans to attack, destroy their little fleet, and then finish what they started on New Eden. Soon, the human infestation would be wiped clean from the galaxy. He did not know how wrong he was. In the Sol system, Admiral stood on the bridge of her flagship, the TNS Remembrance. It was a dreadnought 3 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that could crack planets. Around her, space was filled with ships. Not 8,000 ships. Not 10,000 ships. 60,000 ships. They came from everywhere. From hidden shipyards inside hollowed-out asteroids. From secret bases orbiting gas giants. From underground factories on moons that appeared dead on sensors. For 3 centuries, humanity had been building in silence. They had shown the galaxy a small fleet of 6,000 ships while hiding the rest. Now the rest had come out of hiding. Dreadnoughts the size of cities floated alongside carriers filled with thousands of fighters. Destroyers moved in perfect formation, their weapons gleaming in the light of distant stars. Battle cruisers, frigates, corvettes, and support ships filled every available space. It was the largest fleet ever assembled in human history. It was the largest fleet the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral looked at the display showing all 60,000 ships and felt a strange mix of pride and sorrow. She had not wanted this. No sane person wanted war, but they had not given them a choice. "Admiral," her communications officer said, "we're receiving a message from the Dominion, from their ambassador." "Put it through." The face of Ambassador Al appeared on screen. He was a typical tall and thin with gray skin and cold black eyes. His voice dripped with arrogance. "Humans," he said, "the High Council of the Dominion demands that you cease your aggressive military buildup immediately. Your actions threaten the peace of the galaxy. You will apologize for your hostility, disband your fleet, and accept Dominion oversight of your remaining colonies. Failure to comply will result in the complete destruction of your species. You have 1 standard week to respond." The message ended. Admiral stared at the blank screen for a long moment. Then she began to laugh. It was not a happy laugh. It was the laugh of someone who had heard the most ridiculous thing in the universe. "They murder our children," she said, "and they demand an apology from us." She turned to her communications officer. "Open a channel, all frequencies. I want every species in the galaxy to hear this." "Channel open, Admiral." Straightened her uniform. When she spoke, her voice was calm and clear. "This is Fleet Admiral of the United Terran Navy. I am speaking to the Dominion and to all species watching." She paused to let her words sink in. 6 months ago, the murdered 2,300,000 human civilians on New Eden. Men, women, children. They burned them from orbit and called it a lesson. They called us vermin. They told us to know our place. Her eyes hardened. "We know our place. Our place is wherever we choose to stand. Our place is among the stars. Our place is beside our children, protecting them from monsters." She gestured to the display showing the fleet. "You thought we had 6,000 ships. You were wrong. You thought we were weak. You were wrong. You thought we would accept the murder of our people. You were very wrong. 60,000 warships are now moving toward Dominion space. Every ship carries humans who have not forgotten New Eden. Every ship carries humans who will never forgive. We are not coming to negotiate. We are not coming to talk. We are coming to teach you what happens when you kill our children. Her voice dropped to something cold and hard. You wanted us to fear you. Now you will learn to fear us. You wanted us to remember our place. Now you will remember yours, at the bottom, in the ashes, begging for mercy that will not come. Hi X, I know you are watching. I want you to understand something. This is not a war. This is a reckoning, and it is coming for you. She cut the transmission. Across the galaxy, other species watched in shock. The numbers were impossible. 60,000 ships. The humans had been hiding this much power. How? Why? The answer was simple. Because humans remembered their history. They remembered what happened to species that showed weakness. They remembered what happened to peoples who trusted their neighbors to be kind. They had been building these ships since the day they first left Earth, preparing for the moment when someone decided to test their resolve. That moment had come. The fleet began to move. 60,000 ships in perfect formation, jumping through folded space toward Dominion territory. It would take 3 days to reach Prime. 3 days for them to watch death coming for them. 3 days to regret what they had done. On Prime, High X watched the reports with growing horror. His intelligence officers had been wrong. Everyone had been wrong. The humans had not been building a small fleet to defend themselves. They had been building an armada to conquer the stars. Mobilize everything, he ordered. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon, call in all reserves. The vermin want to fight. We will give them one they will never forget. But even as he gave the orders, a cold fear was growing in his ancient heart. He had seen many enemies in his 3,000 years of life. He had never seen anything like this. He had never seen a species hide so much strength while pretending to be weak. He had never seen such patience, such planning, such controlled rage. For the first time in his long life, High X wondered if he had made a terrible mistake. The storm was coming, and it would wash away everything in its path. The sky above Prime had always been peaceful. For 10,000 years the had looked up at their stars with pride and confidence. They were the masters of this region. Nothing could threaten them. Nothing could challenge them. Then the humans arrived. 60,000 ships appeared in a single moment. They came out of folded space together, their arrival timed to the millisecond. One moment the sky was empty. The next moment it was filled with death. The sensor operators stared at their screens in disbelief. The numbers kept climbing as the computers tried to count the human fleet. 10,000, 20,000, 40,000, 60,000. The displays flickered and struggled. They had never been designed to track this many enemy ships. High X stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion's pride. Around him, his officers were pale with shock. They had expected 8,000 human ships, maybe 10,000. They had gathered 12,000 Dominion vessels to crush them. They were outnumbered 5 to 1. Open a channel, X commanded. His voice was steady, but his hands were shaking. All frequencies. Admiral's face appeared on his screen. Her eyes were cold. Her face was calm. She looked like someone who had already won. This is madness, X said. You will doom your species with this attack. The Dominion has allies. Other powers will not allow you to. Other powers watched you burn our children, interrupted. They did nothing. They said nothing. They are nothing to us now. Then we will destroy you here. We will end your kind forever. Smiled, it was the smile of a predator. You will try, she said, and you will fail because you don't understand what you're fighting. You see 60,000 ships. I see 60,000 coffins for murderers. Every human on every ship has seen the footage from New Eden. Every human on every ship knows someone who died there. You didn't just make an enemy, you made 2 trillion enemies. And now they have come to collect what you owe. She leaned forward. We owe you a death for every death. 2,300,000 deaths. I intend to collect every single one." The channel closed. X turned to his officers. "All ships attack formation. Launch all fighters. Activate all weapons. We fight to the last ship. We fight to the last soldier. We do not surrender." The battle began. The fleet moved forward in perfect order. They had 10,000 years of military tradition behind them. Their ships were powerful. Their weapons were deadly. Their tactics were proven in 100 wars. None of it mattered. The human fleet hit them like a fist made of fire. Human ships fought in ways they had never seen. They moved in perfect coordination, each ship covering its neighbors, each weapon fired with exact precision. When one ship was damaged, others moved to protect it. When one ship died, others moved to avenge it. Admiral commanded the center of the human formation from his dreadnought, the TNS Vengeance. He watched his tactical display with empty eyes. Every time a human ship died, he felt a small piece of his heart break. But every time a ship exploded, he felt something else. Not joy, not satisfaction, just a cold, hard sense of duty. This was for Sarah, this was for Maya, this was for James, this was for New Eden. They fought bravely. They were not cowards. They stood their ground and fired their weapons and died at their posts. But they were facing something they could not understand. Humans did not fight like other species. Other species calculated odds. Other species retreated when the numbers turned against them. Other species valued survival above victory. Humans valued something else. They valued love. Every human ship that charged into the lines was crewed by people who had lost someone on New Eden. Brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers, sons and daughters, friends and lovers. They had not just killed people. They had created wounds that would never heal. They had created rage that would never cool. The human ships fought with fury. They fought with passion. They fought with the terrible energy that comes from grief turned into action. They took hits that should have destroyed them and kept firing. They flew into danger that should have killed them and kept flying. A human destroyer called the brave little ship found itself surrounded by 5 cruisers. Its captain, a young woman named, was 26 years old. Her brother had been a teacher on New Eden. "All hands," she announced over the ship's speakers. "We're not getting out of this, but neither are they. It's been an honor serving with you. Remember New Eden." The brave little ship charged straight at the largest cruiser. Its weapons fired continuously, tearing holes in the enemy's hull. The cruiser fired back, ripping the human destroyer apart, but kept her ship moving. She kept it pointed at the enemy, and when the 2 ships collided, they both vanished in a ball of nuclear fire. 4 cruisers remained. They had just enough time to feel relief before 3 human battlecruisers appeared and tore them apart in 30 seconds. Stories like this repeated across the battlefield. Human ships sacrificed themselves to protect their allies. Human crews fought to the last breath. Human warriors died with weapons in their hands and curses on their lips. They had never faced anything like it. "They don't stop," a captain screamed over the communication channels. "They don't retreat, they just keep coming, they just keep." His transmission ended in static as his ship exploded. After 6 hours, the fleet was broken. Half their ships were gone. The rest were damaged and scattered. High X watched his dreams of victory turn to ash. "Fall back to the orbital defense stations," he ordered. "We make our stand there." But the defense stations fell too. Human ships swarmed around them like angry insects, pouring fire into their shields until they collapsed. One by one, the mighty stations that had protected Prime for centuries died in flames. After 11 hours, it was over. The Navy was destroyed. 8,000 of their 12,000 ships were wreckage floating in space. The rest had fled or surrendered. Human losses were heavy too, nearly 10,000 ships gone, but they had won. Admiral looked at the planet below. Prime, the heart of the Dominion, the home of the creatures who had burned New Eden. "Begin landing operations," she ordered. "All Marine divisions, we're going down there." Admiral stood beside her. "The High Council bunker is in the northern continent. I want it." Nodded. "It's yours. Take whoever you need." Turned to leave, then stopped. He said quietly, "What happened on New Eden? I know we won today, but it doesn't bring them back. Nothing brings them back." Put her hand on his shoulder. "No," she agreed. "Nothing brings them back, but this makes sure it never happens again. This makes sure every species in the galaxy knows the price of human blood. That's something. It's not enough, but it's something." Nodded slowly. Then he walked off the bridge to lead the assault on the planet below. The Battle of Prime was over. The reckoning was just beginning. The bunker doors were 3 meters thick. They were made of the strongest metal that had ever created. They had survived earthquakes and bombs and 10,000 years of history. They did not survive, Admiral. Human engineers planted charges along the door's edge, while human soldiers held back the last desperate defenders. When the charges blew, the doors fell inward with a crash that echoed through the underground halls. Walked through the smoke and fire with 100 Marines at his back. They moved through the bunker's corridors, past fallen guards and abandoned posts, until they reached the central chamber. The High Council of the Dominion was waiting for him. There were 7 of them, 1 leader from each species in the Dominion. They sat around a curved table, their faces showing different expressions: fear, anger, defiance, shame. High X stood apart from them, his ancient body still straight, his cold eyes still proud. "So," X said, "the vermin have crawled into our home." Walked slowly toward him. His face was empty of emotion. His voice was flat and cold. My daughter was Sarah. She was 38 years old. She was a doctor. She helped people. My granddaughter was Maya. She was 7 years old. She wanted to be a scientist when she grew up. My grandson was James. He was 3 years old. He had just learned to say my name." He stopped in front of X. "They lived on New Eden. They burned to death when your ships attacked. I found their names on the list of the dead. 2,300,000 names. 3 of them belonged to me." X met his gaze without blinking. "They were casualties of war, regrettable but necessary. Your species needed to learn." Hit him. It was a single punch, but it carried the weight of all his grief and all his rage. The ancient fell to the floor, purple blood streaming from his face. Stood over him, his fist still clenched, his body shaking with emotions he could barely control. "They were not casualties," he said. "They were not lessons, they were people. They were my family, and you murdered them." The Marines secured the council members. Within hours, the Dominion surrendered unconditionally. Their military was disbanded. Their alliance was dissolved. The 7 species that had ruled this region for 10,000 years were scattered to the winds. But humanity did not commit genocide. They did not burn cities. They did not slaughter civilians. They were not the monsters the Dominion had been. Instead, they brought justice. Every official who had authorized the attack on New Eden was arrested. Every commander who had carried out the bombardment was found. Every officer who had fired on civilians was tracked down. They were given trials, real trials, with evidence and lawyers and judges. The galaxy watched as the murderers were confronted with their crimes. High X was the last to be judged. He stood before a human court and listened as the evidence was presented. The recordings from New Eden, the death counts, the images of burning children and dying families. He showed no remorse. He said nothing in his defense. The sentence was death. On the day of his execution, X finally spoke. "Do you think this changes anything? Do you think killing me will bring back your dead? You have won nothing. You have proven nothing. You are still vermin. You will always be vermin." Admiral was there to watch. He stepped forward and looked into the eyes of the creature who had destroyed his family. We are not vermin, he said. We are human, we love deeply, we grieve deeply, we forgive rarely, and we never ever forget. 1,000 years from now, our children's children will remember what you did. They will remember New Eden. They will remember the cost of attacking humanity. That is what you have proven. That is what you will be remembered for, a warning to anyone who thinks about hurting us. The execution was quick and clean. X died without ceremony, without honor, without glory. 1 week later, the human fleet gathered in orbit above what had once been New Eden. 50,000 ships remained from the original 60,000. They formed a ring around the dead planet, their lights shining in the darkness like stars. Admiral's voice came over every channel. We are here to remember. We are here to honor. We are here to promise. She paused. 2,300,000 people died on this world. They were farmers and teachers, doctors and engineers, parents and children. They had dreams and hopes and plans for the future. They took all of that away in a single day of fire. We cannot bring them back. We cannot undo what was done, but we can make sure they are never forgotten, and we can make sure this never happens again. On every ship, crew members held small lights. At signal, they released them into space. 2,300,000 lights, one for each person who died. They floated outward from the fleet, a cloud of glowing memories spreading through the void. Rest now, whispered. Rest and know that you are loved. Know that you are remembered. Know that your deaths meant something. The galaxy will never forget New Eden, and the galaxy will never forget what humanity will do to protect its own. The lights drifted around the burned planet like a halo. In the silence of space, they seemed almost peaceful. 3 days later, Ambassador of the Galactic Concord requested a meeting with Admiral. She agreed to speak with him aboard her flagship. The Concord wishes to welcome humanity back into diplomatic relations, said. His voice was nervous. His 4 hands were folded tightly. We understand that mistakes were made. We should have intervened on New Eden. We should have. Yes, interrupted. You should have, you didn't. And now you're scared because you've seen what we can do. Nodded slowly. Many species are frightened. They wonder if humanity will seek revenge against others who failed to help. They wonder if this is the beginning of human conquest. Stood by the viewport, looking out at the stars. We don't want conquest, she said. We never wanted war. All we ever wanted was to live in peace, to explore, to grow, to build. We reached out our hand in friendship and the Dominion bit it off. You watched and did nothing. The Conquered told us to accept the murder of our children as the price of peace. She turned to face him. We will not forget that. We will not trust the Conquered again. We will build our own alliances, our own defenses, our own future. If other species want friendship with humanity, they will have to earn it. They will have to prove they value human lives as much as they value their own. Bowed his head, and if they threaten you, if they attack. His eyes were hard as steel. Then they will learn what they learned. The lesson is simple. Leave us alone and we will leave you alone. Hurt our people and we will end you. That is not a threat. That is a promise. A promise written in the blood of New Eden and sealed with 60,000 warships. Left with nothing. The Conquered got no commitments, no treaties, no assurances. Humanity would stand alone. But they would stand. Months later, on the ruins of Prime, a human soldier named Maria Santos walked through a destroyed city. She was 40 years old. Her son had been a student on New Eden. She had volunteered for the invasion force because she needed to do something with her grief. Now the war was over, and she felt only emptiness. She was about to return to her unit when she heard a sound, a small, scared sound, a child's cry. She followed the sound to a collapsed building. There, hiding in the rubble, was a child, a little girl no more than 5 or 6 years old. She was covered in dust and dried blood. Her eyes were huge with terror. She was alone. Maria stood there for a long moment. This child's people had killed her son. This child's people had burned New Eden. Part of her felt nothing but hatred. Part of her wanted to walk away. But another part of her, the part that remembered her son's laugh, her son's smile, her son's kindness, that part couldn't leave a scared child alone in the ruins. She knelt down slowly. She held out her hand. "It's okay," she said softly. "I'm not going to hurt you. Come with me. I'll find you somewhere safe." The child stared at her hand, the hand of an enemy, the hand of a monster from the stories, but there was no anger in Maria's eyes, no hatred, just sadness, just a mother who had lost her child looking at a child who had lost everything. Slowly, carefully, the little girl reached out and took Maria's hand. Maria lifted her up and held her close. The child trembled against her chest, small and fragile and scared, and Maria felt something she thought she had lost forever: hope. The galaxy had learned what humanity could destroy. Now it would learn what humanity could build.